Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Star Sisters. I'm so excited to bring on my dear friend, Beth Anne. Beth Anne is an Alabama-born Texas transplant who loves all things coffee and traveling the world, whether that's to explore new places, scuba dive new reefs, or run on every continent she can. She's incredibly blessed to have a big family and absolutely adores being an aunt to five, almost six little nieces and nephews. She's constantly in awe of the Lord's goodness and his daily pursuit of her heart. She's so thankful to forever get to be a daughter of God. Oh, that's so beautiful. And Beth Ann, I'm so excited to have you on to share your wisdom and your light. And I've just been so inspired by the way you've stepped up and led our house church recently. It just oh, it's just so beautiful. And so with that, what makes you shine?
And also, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're
What a
welcome.
blessing. So, what makes me shine? I'd have to say a couple things. I really love being outside. I really love being in nature, just like stepping away from the busyness of every day. Whether that's going on walks, going on runs, going on hikes, getting to be present with people, um, not on our phones, and just, yeah, love nature together and see what the Lord's created for us to really get to live in and see his beauty at work. So that's one of the things I love doing, in that where I really get to walk with people and talk with people and get to know them.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I think especially in our Western modern society, it's so easy to think things are just about us. And yeah, just to get stuck in that and forget that really it's all about other people.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, and you just sometimes you get so enveloped inside like four walls, and then to get to step outside and see just this expansive open space is very it's almost like you can take a big sigh and relax in a way that you just can't do day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are some ways that you like to do that on the day to day?
Ooh, I like to and always have to schedule time in advance. As you mentioned, it's always so busy. It's always go, go, go. So scheduling time in advance with people is always great. One of the things I even did is I got a dog a couple years ago because I thought I'd go on more walks if I had a little puppy. So she gets me outside a lot more. Um, Other things, just usually when I'm stressed too, if I've had a long day or a stressful day, I can just go be by myself, but be outside. Go to a park. One of the great things about Houston is we have such nice parks. Other places in the city might not be as nice, but the parks are beautiful to go walk on by the Med Center, as you know, and even kind of by downtown and Memorial Park.
Mm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Our dogs are great like tools and to get us outside. Yeah. What are
Yes, they
some
are.
Yeah, so what are some like bigger things you do to like get outside and connect with God? Like you mentioned that you love to
Mm.
travel, and so like I guess do you like plan your trips around that kind of thing?
Ooh, yes. Last year I got to go on a trip to and hike Machu Picchu. So I like to take hiking trips that get me out and about. Um, One day I'd love to hike Tanzania as well. Just seeing some of these incredible places that the Lord's created really puts everything else into perspective. You realize how small we are in the grand scheme of things. Whether that's physically small compared to these giant mountains all around us, or whether our little problems that we thought were so big just kind of wash away in the expanse of like the huge sky. Um, so I like to take trips, hiking trips, and then I think about 3 years ago, I got into scuba diving, and that's a whole new world as well. Everything in Finding Nemo is real. underwater. It's pretty accurate. Um, and so that's been really cool to experience the underwater world. And you're like, whoa, this earth is huge. And the God of the universe is absolutely huge. And yet he cares about us and me personally and my tiny little problems that mean nothing in comparison to eternity. It's just really cool to have those experiences and to be able to get outside and to get away and to just pray and spend that time. Yeah, with friends, with other people, with the Lord, everything, all the above.
Oh, yeah, that sounds so wonderful. And have you, I guess, so have you intentionally used that over the years to connect with the Lord even more deeply, or is it more of a thing that maybe it started unintentionally where you were going on these trips and you're like, oh wow, I feel so connected. Like how did that help develop your relationship with the Lord?
Yeah, that's actually a great question because at first it started as just having fun, honestly, uh, and just enjoying these places. But then as I really over the years um, got more involved in and deeper in my faith, more involved in community and the church, and got closer with the Lord, and actually having more of a relationship than just he's this separate being that's aware of me, but not as, you know, my little needs are so small in comparison to him. And so kind of seeing him as almost like a little bit separate from my day-to-day life. When I started really having a closer relationship with him, spending more time in the Bible and in community with friends and other folks in the same life stage that just loved him. And I got to see what a relationship with him looked like and how he wants us to talk with him day to day. He wants to be a part of our world and our lives, and just really have a space in our hearts. So my trips transitioned a little bit more from just me trying to have fun to actually getting to and wanting to see um, people the way he saw them in those regions, love on other people that are there, as well as actually enjoy his creation in the way that I think that we're meant to, but sometimes it's hard to. And so, yeah, that transition was really interesting and cool to see where it became less about me almost. My trips used to be just all about me and what I wanted to do, and more about, hey, how can I bring the Lord along? How can I bring God along with me on this? And he can be here with me in this. And that was really cool.
Wow, that is so cool and such like a deep yet also not deep realization because I feel like
Exactly.
when we realize that things aren't about us, then like the whole world changes. And I feel like I have that realization like at least once a month where I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, it's not about me."
Exactly. It's like, what have I been thinking? How did I forget it wasn't about me? But it's so easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah. So how has that mindset like transitioned like how do I want to ask this? So how does you thinking more it's not about you like with these trips and stuff, how has that translated into your everyday life?
Mm, yes, yes. That one's harder and a daily struggle, to be completely honest. Um, because it's so hard sometimes to get out of our own heads. So a couple of things I found that work for me is, and I've tried different methods, but really waking up and setting aside time to just meditate in the word, spend time in prayer, and not just jump out of bed and start going immediately. And I've tried doing that in the evenings, and it's just not, it doesn't work as well for me personally. Um, I just need to start my day kind of getting reoriented instead of, hey, I woke up today and I'm ready. I'm starting with my to-do list. Let's go. To actually set that aside and focus on kind of the bigger picture of why am I here? What's the point of all this? And then once I get that mindset, then I can move on to my to-do list. And all of a sudden it seems less big. I can be more aware of people. Um, I've also tried over the past probably 2 years to leave a little bit more margin in my calendar. I used to always go from one activity to the next, whether that was work, lunch, back to work, um, workout, hang out with friends, to not schedule so much so that I had a little bit of time if I got stuck at a restaurant or I was in a long line at the grocery store. I'm not in as much of a hurry, so I can focus a little bit more on those around me and just be aware that if like someone's having an issue. One time I took my dog to get a acai bowl, and we were walking back to the car. It was just me and my dog. We were just hanging out outside while I ate. And we were walking back to the car, and this older lady had pulled up and she wanted to pet the dog and talk about the dog. And she said I looked nice because I come from work, and I told her I was going to a church thing, church prayer night that night. And she just started crying and was just really started opening up about kind of where she was in life, and how she was really struggling to be, she felt really alone in that season, and how, she loved petting dogs because it made her feel less alone, and just talking with me. And we spent about 30 minutes chatting. And that was because I wasn't like, hey, I gotta go. Look at the clock. I'm sorry. I can't talk to you right now. And it was just a sweet reminder that sometimes people need us to be a little bit slower, not even slower, but just have a little bit more margin and see them. But if you're not aware of that, and so again, sometimes it's very hard to be aware of that. Um, you can miss out on those sweet opportunities to really love on someone and encourage someone that might be in a tough spot when they're willing to open up to you.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. I have chills, especially because I have found myself recently realizing this, like as in the last couple of weeks, of like, oh wow, it's people are like my mission here on earth. It's not about like what I'm doing or the achievements. It's about the people ultimately. And because like each one of us is a unique creation of God, like one of God's unique
Mhm.
creations. And so that is so beautiful that like you're able to see fruit of that, of just like slowing down a little bit, scheduling in extra time. I'm definitely going to start doing that.
It takes a while, and it's not every day, but those little sweet reminders are also encouraging to me and to us. Oh yeah, this is why we're doing it. Okay, I can try to allow more open time in my schedule then, and just kind of almost like see what the Lord brings. Almost like a challenge a little bit, like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here ready for it.
Yeah, and how like fun is that too? Like just like a little surprise here and there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
Is there
reminder of why we're here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Is there something that originally made you like a trigger or something that made you switch to like adopting this mindset? Because, I'm sure like it wasn't natural just growing up in the world that we live in.
Yes, no, it's kind of not what society tells us to do even. I think for me, it was slow. It was kind of slow over time. It wasn't one thing or one event that really kind of made me realize that how important this was. Um, it came just watching other people do it so well. I'd be with other people and I'm like, hey, we're in a hurry. Like, I rode with you. Let's go. But they would just take the time to almost like inhabit that time, that space, and not be in a hurry, and seeing just the joy that someone else got to have because of that. And so kind of watching other people do it and them almost being mentors without even realizing it. And then just also, I feel like the days that give the Lord a little bit more time in the morning, He kind of is able to slow things down for me, even without me doing as much, in an odd way. I'm putting it all on myself, but he really helps make that possible too. Whether that's canceled plans and all of a sudden I have some free time. I was upset about having this canceled lunch or dinner with a friend because that would have been so sweet. But then all of a sudden, there's something else that's taking its place that I didn't even realize. Like, I'm going out to dinner by myself with my dog. I get to interact with someone else. So, things like that, I think a lot of it is he does it for us if we're willing to let him and if we want him to. And so that was one of the things I kind of started praying about and asking is I need to get out of my own head. I would just spiral with thoughts about how well am I doing at work? How am I performing? What do my friends think of me? What do all these people think of me? And that's so minor, yet it takes up so much of our mental space. And so really just constantly praying about it. I had to pray about it for months because I was like, I cannot get out of my own head and think about other people. And so it has been a slow kind of prayerful progression. And I still a work in progress, but thank goodness that he works with me through it.
Well, it's definitely very evident how like slow in a good way and intentional you are and like I know we went on a walk the other week and just it was just such a good conversation and it was a long walk but like I had plenty of time the rest of the day to do all the things I needed to do, you know, that just yeah, it's just such a good reminder. Yeah. And
Yeah, that was a great walks are great, I'm telling you, because then you don't have time for your phone and you really get to chat with people.
oh yeah, especially those people some people are a little more attached to their phone than others.
That's true. That's true. Maybe that would be one. That's one thing. Yes. If I'm on social media a lot of the day or part of the day, man, all this kind of goes out the window. That's another for me kind of trigger is I'm not super active on it, but I'll just watch other people. But why? I've got this beautiful life of my own.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah. So next I want to ask you a little bit about your faith. So I have known you as this really steadfast, strong, prayerful leader in our house church, not just
Thank
like,
you.
you know, not just another woman who's like, you know, and I don't say it like that, and I not just another woman,
Hmm.
like, but like you're leading in our house church and you're leading in our girls group, and it's really beautiful to witness, and I do feel so held by you in those spaces and just like so supported. And so I was just like, have you always wanted to do something like that, or did you just feel called to it, or like how is that journey for you?
That's a good one. And thank you for the kind words. That's so sweet to hear because I do not feel any of that. I feel very unqualified. And so it's just so sweet to hear because it's nothing that I'm doing. It's all the Lord. And so that is sweet to hear. I feel like I am the one of the most kind of unfaithful. Thank goodness the Lord is faithful for me because I would forsake him every day. um, no, so since I grew up in a very strong Christian household and knew of the Lord, who he was, who Jesus was at a young age. I was kind of one of those, hey, I'm good enough. All right, we're okay. I'm not crazy. I don't do anything super crazy. I was never super rebellious. Um, and even getting saved and accepting Jesus at a young age was never I never felt like I needed him because nothing was so bad that, hey Lord, help me on this test, in college tomorrow. I didn't study much, or oh, I drank a little too much and I have a really bad headache, make it go away. Like that was kind of the relationship I had if I needed something. And I never needed anything that big. And so I was never that strong. And so I was one of those worldly Christians that people talk about. Growing up through college, even a little bit into my 20s, where people are like, "Oh, you're claiming to be a Christian, but you don't really seem to be doing much." Um, to live like that. Again, but I never did anything super rebellious. So I was over here thinking, I'm fine. I've got salvation. I'm good to go. Um, he's there, but he's kind of a little distant from me. We're good to go. And it wasn't until I had started working. It was a couple of years into working, and everyone's so excited to have a job after college, and to start making money. You don't have any time, but you have more money. So you're like, this is so exciting. And I work specifically in the oil and gas business where a lot of times as right out of college, 20-year-olds can have pretty good salaries, for kind of where they are in their career. And so I still kind of hung out with some church friends and knew some church friends, but I also had a lot of friends just from work, and from different industries, that I'd met through other work friends. And they, again, were like 22, 23, and they would just constantly complain about their lives. They're making a lot of money. They're young. They're healthy. They've got a good life ahead of them. And they just would complain about their lives quite a bit, um, and you feel so down after chatting with them. And they would try to compete with each other and one up each other, and those kind of um, passive aggressive insults almost in their conversations, where it just gets you a little, you're almost like, my walls are up when I'm around these people because I don't know what I'm going to say that they're going to latch onto and kind of turn into an offense almost. And then just seeing my Christian friends that from church, who just love the Lord and were just so excited. They were just so full of life, they loved people. And I was like, hey, I that seems more of what I would like. And I knew how to get there. I just never had. I'd always been so passive in my faith, and just not really caring that much. And just seeing them so alive is like, oh, I want that. Okay, well, what does that require? Okay, that actually requires more of a day-to-day relationship with the Lord than just this, you seeing him as this distant kind of God entity. And so seeing them through their lives and just be so happy and joyful, and care for other people, I was like, hey, I want that. And so just started tagging along more with them, following them along and learning about what they did. And that really helped grow my faith. Is kind of building a community of others that could show me what to do and how to get what they had.
Mm, that's so beautiful. Yeah. th- a big theme I've been finding and talking to women both on this podcast and off the podcast, just in the like my conversations with friends and things, is community is so important. And there's that quote that it says you're the sum of your five closest friends. So like in your scenario, back when you had just graduated college, if your five closest friends were the people who were complaining about their lives and going out and drinking on the weekends and just so unhappy, then of course you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be unhappy too. You know, like it's not necessarily, that's not your fault. The your choice is to hang out like the people you hang out with, so that would be your fault, but like, but you're is just like, well, you're obviously going to be unhappy. Versus
Exactly. Yeah.
choosing the Christian friends who are in love with their lives and who are so joyful. Like, well, of course you're gonna also be joyful. Like that's just logic. You and I are both engineers, A plus
Exactly.
B equals AB, like
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. Even if you don't want to, like their thoughts will start seeping into your thoughts. They'll start comparing themselves. You'll start comparing yourselves, and it's just this kind of spiral. Even
yeah.
if we don't want to be in it, yeah, it's very easy to fall into for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Um, so was leading a leadership position at 7 Mile something that you sought out or that you really wanted, or did you just like say, oh, here we're going, because you did say you feel unqualified, and I think you're very qualified.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Yeah, as I was growing in my faith, there were periods where I did more leadership roles, but honestly, it was with kids or high schoolers because to me it seems easier. Hey, they're younger than me. They already think I'm pretty cool. So, it's a little bit less intimidating, right? Um, but then having to also help lead and steward adults is like, hey, they might be smarter than me. They probably are smarter than me. They've got good arguments for things of the Bible or reasons for why they might be challenged by things in the Bible. And so, as far as kind of leadership, and I never consider myself the best teacher either. And so, historically, I've always kind of helped out with kids, or I think high school was the oldest I'd gone. And high school, I'm talking maybe ninth or 10th grade, not seniors. But it was honestly, it wasn't me. As far as kind of helping out and leading our house church, currently, I did nothing. I'll tell you what, they prayed for me because specifically because it's almost like I had no say in it. I did, but I didn't. Because by the time we got to the point where they were asking me, I was already, hey, I'm willing to do whatever the Lord wants me to do. It seems like this is what He wants me to do because you're literally asking me to do it, and I'm very open to it. So, this is interesting because I didn't change my mind at all. So it's totally the Lord changing my mind, and I love how He does that without us almost noticing until after the fact when you're like, oh, so all these things played into where I am now and what you call me to do. So even feeling underqualified, I had kind of gotten to the point where I was praying for challenges in my faith and in my walk because I felt like I was slipping a little more lukewarm. I was also felt like I wasn't learning and the Bible wasn't coming alive as much. And I remember talking to my small group about that, and they were praying through that over time. To all of a sudden now I've been asked to do something and I'm very much ready to do it, which I didn't think I would be. And just giving it all up to the Lord, and it's not focusing on myself because I can't do it. I still can't do it. It's only Him that does it through me, which is odd to say, but He really does change our minds. He changes our hearts if we let Him. And He really can steer the ship almost. We make the decisions, but He steers and gives us opportunities and kind of wisdom in the moment to realize if those opportunities are something we should say yes to or should say no to. So the fact that I was even willing to say yes is kind of like, hey, I should probably say yes to this because I'm very open to it and I've been praying for something. I'll tell you what, be specific in your prayers though, because otherwise you don't know what He's gonna do. You don't know what He might ask you to do. I was praying for challenge, and this is what He brought about. So touche, God, touche. Well played.
Well, I mean, like, just to see you embrace the challenge, even if you might be feeling unqualified, because I think there's a lot of us who do things that especially if you have a perfectionist mindset or used to have a perfectionist mindset, it's really easy to fall in the trap of, oh, if I just do this, then I'll get to this level and then I'll be qualified. But because we never felt qualified to begin with, like we might never actually feel qualified. Looking at you kind of in a similar vein, it's like, well, I know about your story and your journey a little bit, and I'm like, well, Beth Ann, of course you are the perfect person to lead our house church. And
Thank you.
here you are, like, I don't know, I think it's just so like it's so courageous of you to just like take that step anyway. And I just like, and to lean on the Lord and to trust takes courage because the world tells us that we need to know before we can trust, but that's not faith. Faith is leaning
Hmm.
in anyway, even when maybe it doesn't make sense or it's scary.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Yes. If you can't trust someone, or if you are waiting until you are ready to trust, then that defeats the purpose of kind of taking a step into the unknown. It's not unknown at that point if you feel fully prepared almost.
Oh, yeah, no, this is so good. So the other question that I ask everyone on this show is if you could give advice to someone right now who currently feels in the dark or distant from the Lord, but they want to reconnect with God and their own like God-given light, what advice would you give that person?
Mm, yes, because we've all, I feel like I've been there before too, where you're like, I've just lost track of the purpose and the reason that I'm here, and I feel like I've lost the ability to hear the Lord even. So one of the things I found is, and you already mentioned community and how just special that can be when you are feeling out of sync or just down and almost like in this wilderness and you're not certain about things. Community can really help just love on you during that period, even if they don't do much, just having their presence, watching them live their life almost, just kind of getting to watch how they do it. It's just so encouraging. And you can learn a lot. And that just the way they can love on you is so sweet. So definitely community. And then I would also say finding someone that is really on fire for the Lord. And then just kind of looping arms with them, because they will just bring. I'll give an example. I'll give an example of even you, Kate. Just the things that they'll bring up in what they've read or what they've experienced with the Lord, and it's just so life-giving hearing someone else talk about things, talk about their lives, talk about what the Lord's doing in their life or what they read that's come alive. You're almost like, oh, I read that too, but it didn't come alive for me. But oh, now it has, because someone else has helped explain it or shared in a way that is just so, wow, I didn't get that. And so I think the Lord uses that, and that's really special and sweet. And so, yeah, find somebody who loves the Lord and walk alongside Him, like really closely, uh, can really help. That's what's helped me, when I'm like, oh, the Bible's not coming alive this time when I've been reading it, but when they say come alive, I'm not nothing. It just is a book. What's happening? Um, but when I kind of walk closer with somebody, that just loves the Lord and is really seeing, um, His word come to life, then it almost comes to life to me too. It's amazing how you can share in that almost. So it doesn't have to come to life with me, just those around me. So probably those two are the biggest ones I've seen.
That's really, really wonderful advice. And I love the connection back into community and leaning on each other. And I think a lot of times we talk about supporting each other, but I love the way you focused on receiving support and again, not making it about ourselves when we're in a hard time.
Yeah, it's great because that's hard to do too.
Oh
I had
yeah.
to learn that the tough way too. Uh, I was independent every day. I was so independent. I didn't need anybody, but really we do need each other, and that's okay. And it's okay to send a text that you need help or you're kind of just struggling with something. That's been really cool to see. And that is very hard to do, I will admit, but just try it. I would say just try it and see what happens.
Uh,
Because sometimes people will surprise you too, or the Lord will use people to surprise you.
Oh, yeah, that's so beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing, Beth Ann. And thank you for coming on this podcast and sharing so much wisdom. I know that everyone listening is gonna like get so much out of this.
I hope so. Thank you for having me. I love your encouragements and I love your podcast.
Oh,
It's
thank
such a
you.
great idea. We all need each other. We all need help and advice. So